Good morning, everyone. Welcome to teaching learning session of sociology. Today we'll discuss BSOE 143, Block 2, Unit 4 and Unit 5 of Block 2, that is Social Ecology and Treadmill of Production. What is social ecology? Social ecology is compound of social and ecology. Social ecology is made up of two terms, social and ecology. That term social refers to the human society and the way it is organized. Social means human society and how human society is organized. It is social. While ecology and the human society, it includes all the components of the elements of the human society, whether it's economy, whether it's politics, whether it's structure and the culture. It includes all the aspects of human society. And the term ecology, because it is made up of two words, society and ecology. Society means human society, it includes all the aspects of human society. And the term ecology refers to study of the relationship between the living things and their surroundings. Ecology is the relationship, study of the relationship between living things and their surroundings. This is ecology. So, study of social society and ecology, that is study of the relationship between the living things and the environment, right? That is social ecology. Social ecology is study of interaction between human beings and the environment around them, and how these interactions have a reciprocal impact on the society and on the environment. The human that is social ecology is study of the relationship or study of the interaction between the human society and the environment, and how the society and environment impact each other, how society impacts the environment and how environment impacts the society. The study of interaction between the human society and the environment is known as social ecology, and both impact each other. I hope this is clear. Social ecology made up of two terms, so social and ecology, and the interaction or the interrelationship between the human society and environment is social ecology. Traditionally, actually, if we go by tradition, that traditionally sociology discipline studies the society from a four vantage point, like economy. When we talk about this society, we talk about the economy of the society. We talk about the politics of the society, right? Then we talk about the social institutions of the society, and then the social structure and the culture. These are the basic aspects or the main aspects of any human society, that is the economics, right? We discussed about the relationship of the sociology and economics politics in our previous lectures, right? So traditionally, sociology discipline studies about the economic of the society, how the economics impact the society, how politics impact the society, and how society impacts the politics. Then we talk about the social institutions like marriages, like family, right? We talked about the social structure and the culture. These are the traditional discipline of sociology, right? and what we do is we compare and contrast, we systematically compare and contrast the society between the two, or society within a society, or between two or more society, on the basis of the economy, on the basis of the politics, on the basis of the culture, on the basis of the social structure or the social institutions. This is Traditional sociology. In traditional sociology, we compare and contrast the society, two or more society, or we compare and contrast within the same society on the basis of these aspects like economy, quality, and all these things, right? But the ecology perspective adds another advantage in which the human society is studied. It is a new concept, is a new aspect, right? When we study the human society from ecology perspective, how environment impacts the human society and how human society impacts the environment, right? This is human ecology. How we study about the interaction between the human society and the environment, right? So this is ecology. Social ecology, the Indian scenario. Let us discuss about the Indian scenario of social ecology. In India, research in the field of ecology and environment is closely linked to the rise and maturity of the environmental movement. Environmental movement played an important role in the research field of ecology. They contributed, these environmental movement contributed a lot in a social ecological field like Chipko Andolan, Narmada Bachao Andolan. All these impacted the human society, right? And they have taken the step towards the ecology, towards the safeguard of the environment. Environment in India has gone through two waves. Environmentalism in India has gone through the two waves. Actually, there are the two waves, or we can divide the environmentalism in India into two phases or two waves. The first phase is during the World War era, right? World War II era, when the pioneering writers in the field published a series of studies which foregrounded the ecological structure of Indian society. During the World War II, this World War II impacted the ecology or environment drastically. It has negatively impacted the environment. And the Indian sociologist like Radha Kamal Mukherjee, he was very much influenced with Patrick Geddes. The Patrick Geddes and the Radha Kamal Mukherjee published a series of studies related to the environment, related to the ecology or ecological infrastructure in Indian society. And the second wave, which was the first wave, this was the first era or the first wave of environmentalism in India, and the second wave of environmentalism in India has emerged during early 1970s as a consequences of post-independence concern with industrialization. The second wave emerged during 1970s because of the industrialization. Industrialization impacted our society, impacted our ecology drastically. Right? It impacted our society drastically because of industrialization. What capitalists do is they utilize the natural resources up to maximum capacity, and they dump their waste into the environment, which impacts the flora and fauna of the environment. Right. So the second wave started in 1970s because of the rapid industrialization. Right. R.K. Mukherjee, Radha Kamal Mukherjee wrote about his concern for ecology and environment. Radha Kamal Mukherjee was influenced by the ecologist Patrick Geddes, and because he was very much influenced with Patrick Geddes, and Patrick Geddes was an environmentalist, right? So Radha Kamal Mukherjee wrote extensively about the ecology and the environment. He was very much concerned about the ecology and the environment, right? What are the social ecological concerns in India, right? See, when because of industrialization, we are impacting our ecological balance. What are the concerns? What are the basically concerns in India, right? Ecological concerns. The consequences of unrestrained industrial development to achieve economical growth and catch up with the developed countries unwittingly compelled up to ignore ecological concerns because of industrialization, because of the industrialization or unrestricted industrial development, and why there is a rapid industrialization or the industrial development to achieve the economical growth, because we have to compete with the developed countries. If we have to compete with the developed countries, it is required that our economy should be strong. We need an economic growth, and for this economic growth, we prefer the industrialization and the industrial development, and this industrialization impacted our ecology drastically. Because of this economic growth, we extract maximum resources from our ecology, and we dump our waste in the environment. And the dumping of the waste, industrial waste in the environment, is responsible for various type of ecological concerns like air pollution, water pollution, right? Like air pollution, like water pollution, and many other things, right? Ecological problems like Chipko movement, Narmada Bachao Andolan are these the environmental wrong, compounded by economic, political, and cultural correlates the stakeholders in the issues. And these movements played an important role in Indian to safeguard the environment, right? And the next concern about the environment is on the name of industrialization, on the name of the development or the economic growth, the state marginalized those who had unlimited access to these resources traditionally, right? And they have given, and the state has given the rights of these resources to the capitalist, so that they can use these resources for the economic development of the country. This is the one of the basic concerns, right, about the ecology in Indian scenario, because on the name of the economic growth, the state has marginalized those, especially the tribal people who have unlimited access to these resources traditionally, where these uh, jungles or the forest were the livelihood for these tribal peoples. But on the name of the industrialization, on the name of the development, the state preferred the capitalist over these tribal people, and state has given the access of those resources to the capitalist rather than the tribal people, right? And this has created a disbalance between the society and ecology, right? And now we have started looking for a sustainable solution, right? Sustainable solution for solutions for the sustainable development, right. We are looking for the solutions for this problem, the ecological problem. There should be no environmental problem, environmental issues, and what is our priority is that there should be no environmental ecological problems, and we should grow economically too, and we are looking for the solution for the sustainable development, right? In this area, Madhav Gadgil and Ramchandra Guha developed a framework, right? How we can we can opt for how we can go for a sustainable development. Ramchandra Guha and the Ram Madhav Gadgil has developed a framework, and this framework actually rests on the fundamental opposition between the two group of people, distinguished on the basis of their access to resources. They have given a framework, and this framework is basically based on the two group of people, and they are opposite to each other. And why they are opposite to each other? Because of their access to the resources, natural resources. These groups are, first is omnivores. Omnivores include the industrialists, rich farmers, right, state officials, and affluent middle class, and they are known as privileged type of a group, right? Omnivores or the privileged, that is the industrialist, state officer, large and the rich farmers, they are the omnivores. And the second group is the ecosystem people. And the ecosystem people comprises the rural people, right, tribal people, landless laborer, and the animal herder, and the wood work artisan, etc. And this group is known as the marginalized group. The first group is known as the privileged one, and the second group is known as the marginalized group. And this framework is based on these two groups according to the access to these resources, the privileged and the marginalized group. Right now, the development process in independent India has been characterized by basic asymmetry between the two groups. After independence, our state preferred the industrial development. They preferred the privileged group, and because of this, there is an asymmetry between the two group. That is between the marginalized group and the privileged group, right? Because the state has given access to resources, access of the resources to one group, right? and um, and a few aspects of the development processes are the concentration of economic and political power in the hands of omnivores, that is the privileged one. Why there is an asymmetry in post-independent India? Why there is an asymmetry between the groups? Because a state prefer privileged one, right? The economic and the political power is concentrated in the hands of the privileged one, right? In the hands of the omnivores, right? And the use of the state machinery, that is the policy making, executive power, to divert natural resources to benefit the omnivores and the privileged. And our state always preferred omnivores. They diverted the natural resources towards the omnivores or the privileged ones, right? And this is another reason for asymmetry growth between the omnivores and the marginalized one, right? And this leads to the indifference towards the plight and economic plight of the economic people, as the omnivores pass the cost of ecosystem degradation to the marginalized ecosystem people. They exploited, the omnivores exploits the resources, the ecosystem, and they pass the cost of ecosystem degradation to the marginalized people. The marginalized people suffers because of the overexploitation of the ecosystem by the omnivores or by the privileged ones, right? The government projects like building of dams, roads, and mining operations has disposed the ecosystem people in masses from their source of livelihood, displaced them, dislocated them, right? See, Usually, state displays these marginalized people, tribal people, for the on the name of the development, like for building of the dams, for mining operations. They displace these marginalized people or the tribal people from their places. This impacts the livelihood of the tribal areas, right? And this is another reason for the asymmetric growth between the two groups, right? And these tribal peoples are known as the project affected people or the ecological refugees, right? Ecological refugees because they have been displaced from their places and for on the name of the development, right? Ecological refugees or project affected people, right? Gadgil and Guha have put forward the measures to be taken to achieve the goal of sustainable development and overcome the asymmetry. They suggested how you can achieve the goal of the sustainable development and how can one come overcome this asymmetrical growth between the two groups, that is the marginalized group and the privileged group. The first is the strengthening of the institutions of local governance to bring about the genuine participatory democracy. Right? The first suggestion given by Guha and this Gadgil is that there should be a participatory democracy. There should be a strengthening of the institution at the local governance so that there should be a genuine democracy, the genuine participatory democracy. It will help in the sustainable growth. Then introduction of the natural resources use processes which is open, accessible and accountable to all interested. The second thing is that the natural resources should be open to all, and those who uses those natural resources or exploits those natural resources, accountability should be theirs. It is very much required that we should set the accountability if we want to achieve the sustainable growth or if we want to preserve our ecology, right? So natural resources use process which is open, anyone can use it. It should be accessible, but accountability should be fixed, right? Removing subsidies from resources used by decentralizing the entire process. This will allow proper valuation of the resources. The third point which they have suggested for the sustainable growth is removal of the subsidies. There should be the proper valuation of the resources. Subsidies should not be given to anyone, right? Fourth is encourage the private enterprise or the market access to these resources for producing goods and services, but hold them accountable for their ecological damage. For sustainable growth, it is very much required that we should grow economically, and we can grow economically by involving the private player. Right? It is important that we should encourage the private player to access these resources. They can use these resources, but we should hold them accountable for their ecological damages. It should be their accountability, it should be their responsibility, right? So according to Guha and Gadgil, it is very important that accountability should be set, right? If we want to remove if we want to achieve the goals of sustainable development and if we want to minimize the asymmetry between the two groups, right? Now, trade of production, again a very important concept. Trade of production theory. Trade of production theory is a critic against the dominant capitalist mode of production in industrialized society. This theory criticizes the capitalistic mode of production. Capitalistic mode of production means the capitalist or the owner who own the resources of production, right? And this treadmill theory is a this criticizes the capitalistic mode of production. Theorists like Gold, Pellow, and Schoenberg advocated the treadmill productivity theory, right? So Schoenberg was the first one who advocated for the theory. So Gold, Pillow, and the Schoenberg advocated for the treadmill production theory, and the Schoenberg was its earliest advocate. Gold and Pillow popularizes the treadmill theory. So the Schoenberg was the first one who advocated for treadmill productivity theory, production theory, and the Gold and Pillow popularizes this theory, right? And this theory criticizes the capitalistic mode of production in the industrial society. What is treadmill metaphor? Treadmill means what? Why they have used this term treadmill? What this treadmill refers? Right? The treadmill metaphor in the treadmill of production theory depicts the society running in a place without moving forward, right? Treadmill running at the same place without moving forward. That is a treadmill. Why they have using this word treadmill? It's a metaphor. They use this word treadmill as a metaphor because according to them, that society is running. The society is running in place without running forward. Right? So treadmill is a metaphor which indicates that society is running in place without moving forward. They are not moving forward. It represented, according to Gore and others, that decrease in social efficiency of productive system. This treadmill has what it represents. It represents that there is a decrease in efficiency of a social efficiency of productive system. The production has gone down. There is a decrease in social efficiency of the productive system. The social efficiency has gone down, right? And vastly increased the rate of ecosystem depletion and ecosystem pollution. On the name of industrialization, there is an increased rate of resource extractions, right? Or ecosystem depletion. We are depleting the ecosystem, and in return, what we are gaining is the ecosystem pollution. That is when we are dumping waste in our ecosystem. So we are running at the same place. We are not moving forward. We are extracting, overusing our resources and dumping our resources in the ecosystem. Right, which means this social efficiency has gone down because on the name of industrialization or on the name of economic development, we are impacting our ecosystem, and this ecosystem in return is impacting our society, right? So there is according to this, there is a decrease in social efficiency of the productive system. Right? Apart from the ecological crisis, the treadmill of production weakened employment opportunity for the workers. See, treadmill is we are exploiting our resources and we are dumping our waste in the ecology, and it is impacting our society. And apart from this treadmill is impacting the ecology, and apart from this, it is impacting the economic opportunities of the society or economic opportunities for the workers, right? It benefits the small minority stakeholders like as investors and manager at the cost of stakeholders, that is workers and community. What this theory is doing, what this treadmill is doing is they are benefiting a small group, means capitalist. They are benefiting a small group at the cost of a larger group, and this larger group includes the community. How it is impacting the community? Because because of the impact of the production on the ecology. This treadmill is impacting the ecology, and ecology in returns impacts the society, because there is an interrelationship between the human society and the ecology. All right. So this treadmill, it benefits this. This is benefiting a small group at the cost of the larger group, right? The treadmill theory emerged in context of increased environmental degradation after Second World War. It has emerged in Second World War. There was an industrialization and increased growth of production and profit. After Second World War, the Second World War impacted our ecology drastically, and after World War II, there was a rapid industrialization in US, United States of America, and there was an increased growth of production and profits, right? And because of this rapid growth of the industrialization, this has led to new rounds of investment and increased demand on the new resources of extraction. Right? What happened after World War II? There was a rapid industrialization in US, and because of the rapid industrialization, there was a new round of the investment. People started investing in the industries, and because of the investment, there was an increase in the demands on the natural resources, right? These industrialists demanded more natural resources, right? And this was an era of technological development. People have started developing new technologies, and the new technologies were sunk capital as it increases profit through higher level of production, as it was an era of technological development, and because of the technological development, the production level goes up, and it increase, and it helps in increased profits, right? The profit of the capitalist or the owner has been increased multiple times because of the technological developments, and because of the technological development, there was a high rate of production, and for these technological developments, various researches have been carried out in various private institutions, public funded institutions, and for these researches or for these development, they demanded for more access to more natural resources, and this impacted the ecology again. Human labor have a limited productive capacity, and introduction of new technology in productive system has multiple effects. See, this new technological development has impacted our ecology, which I explained you earlier. It has impacted the employment opportunities of workers. How it has impacted the employment opportunities of the worker? Because human beings have a limited productive capacity, while the productive capacities of the new technology is not limited, and this system has affected the economic opportunities. Now these industrialists or capitalists can produce more using new technologies rather than these using the human manpower. In spite of the displacement of the worker, trade unions and government still support new round of investment, as they believed that it would bring in a new jobs and opportunities or employment opportunities. See, this new technologies or new rounds of investment has impacted the opportunities, job opportunities of the worker, but even after that, these workers or the trade union supports new rounds of investment, because they feel like when people will invest more in the companies, it will bring a new job opportunities, right? This further enhances the political and economic power of the investor managerial group. And by investing more and by displacing or by investing more, they earn more profit by they get more profit, and then the political and the economic power lays in the hands of the owners or these manager investor group, right? So they have control on all ecology and the human society. Public also support the economic development, as it considered the only path to social progress, right? Despite of the decrease in job opportunities, right? Despite of the negative impact on the ecology, on our environment, on our ecology, public supports this new technology and the new rounds of investment, because according to them, according to the public, this is the only path to social progress. They can only progress through these new investment, through new technologies, right? With the trade mill as a model, there is bound to be an increase in profits or dividend at the cost of ecosystem and natural resources, right? We are gaining profit. These owners or the industrialists are gaining profit, but at the cost of ecosystem, at the cost of natural resources, because they are exploiting the natural resources and dumping their waste in the ecosystem, and this is impacting the society. And with the growth of the new technologies, they can lay off their manpower. They don't need much manpower, because of the increased technology, or because of the better technological developments. But still, people prefer these new rounds of investment. And this with this trade mill, there is bound to be an increased profits or the dividend, right? Why there is an increased profit? Because of new rounds of investment, and this profit, increased profits at the rate of the ecosystem depletion or destruction and the manpower. Impact of trade mill of production. What is the impact of this trade mill of production? It impacted the environment and ecology, no doubt, no doubt. For more profits, for more dividends, industrialists exploit the natural resources more, and they use ecosystem to dump their industrial waste. So this impacts the ecology and the environment. There is a limited wages of blue collar workers. Why there is a limited wages of the blue collar worker? Because of the technological advancement. Because of this, because they invested once in the technology, and they can use that technology over and over again. And they can blackmail the blue collar jobs, blue collar workers, that if they want to work, they should work at the lower wages. So it decreases the blue wages of the blue collar jobs, and it has adverse consequences on the health of the worker. And they work for long hours, right? They work for the long hours in pathetic conditions, so it impacts the health of the worker, and they get the lower wages, right? And these industrialists could blackmail the workers, right? Barry Commoner talks about decline in the capital productivity and its impact on the environment. What is capital productivity? Right? So Barry Commoner discussed about the capital productivity and how this capital productivity impacted the environment. What is capital productivity? The capital productivity aims at increased physical capital per worker so as to increase the production and profit, right? So this is increased physical capital, increased profit, right? So increased per capital, increased profit per worker, so as to increase the production and the profit. That is means getting more work, that is equivalent to the exploitation of the worker. The worker should work for the more hours at the low wages, so that the owner can earn more profits and can produce more. When there is more production, owner can earn more profits, right, at the cost of a worker per worker. That is capital productivity is the increase in the physical capital per worker, right? The worker should work for longer hours to produce more, so that the owner can earn more profit. And it was in this capital productivity was in sharp contrast to the economic and managerial focus on the work productivity in 1970s. There was a concept of work productivity in 1970s, and this capital productivity is in contrast to the work productivity. Work productivity aims at reducing the expenses so as to increase the corporate profitability, right? That is worker productivity is if capitalists want to increase the production or increase the profit, if wants to increase the profitability, then it reduces the expenses. And as we all know, that reduction of expenses at the cost of the worker, it is very easy to lay off the workers on the name of reductions of expenses, right? So in any case, the workers suffer, only the workers suffer, be it a worker productivity, be it a capitalist productivity. In worker productivity, there is a reduction in the expenses, right, to increase the profitability. And in capital productivity, there is an exploitation of the workers. So in any case, workers suffers, while in the work productivity, that is acceleration of the treadmill, give little or no benefits to the worker at given rate of extraction of natural resources. Yes, definitely. The increase in the capital productivity with the introduction of the new product technologies led to higher rate of production and extraction of natural resources, right? In capital productivity, there is more extraction of the natural resources and the higher rate of production. And this led to increase in the energy and discharge of chemical waste. Because of the technological advancement, we extract more natural resources, and we produce more. When we produce more, right, when industrialists produce more, it discharges more chemical waste to the environment. And the impact of the acceleration of the trade mill can be seen in the destruction of the natural resources or the natural habitat, right? Which is a sign of expansion of trade mill production. And because of discharge of the more chemical waste in the environment, it impacts the habitat of the habitat of various living organisms. It impacts the flora and fauna of the ecosystem. It impacts our environment, right? This is a sign of expansion of trade mill of production, right? We are running at the same place, but we are not moving forward, right? As the trade mill expands with the increased capital productivity, it eventually led to decline in the wages and the job opportunities. Harrison calls this as a low road of development. See, because of the advancement, because of the new rounds of investment, there is a development in the technology, and with the development of the technology increased the capital productivity, right? And when we can use the technology better than the human resources, we can get work done from with our technology. We prefer the technology over the manpower. So this reduces the chances of job opportunities, right? Because of the advancement of the technology, and Harrison call it a low road of development, because it is impacting our environment, it is impacting our society, right? Treadmill theory focus on the production rather than the consumption. See, it focus on the consumption rather than the it focus on the production rather than the consumption. The trade bill theorists like Gold, Pillow, and Schoenberg focus on the production rather than the consumption. They argue that the consumer may be the ultimate purchaser, but it is the production manager and the owner who decides the allocation of technologies and productive system. So, according to the this treadmill theory of production, it is the producer, right, or it is the owner who decides the allocation of the technologies for productive system. How he will utilize the technologies or the natural resources for the production. Consumer would be the actual purchaser, but there is no say of the consumer at production, right? Consumer cannot decide how a producer will produce a product. It is the producer who will decide how to produce a product. The consumer only consumes the product. They cannot decide how these products should be produced or how one can produce these products. Producer decides the type of the technologies, the use of the labor, and the volume of the production. These are the outside consumer making decision process. Consumer cannot decide about the production process. For trade bill theorists, decisions to provide supply and means of supply if is first taken at the producer level or at the production level. So, what to produce, how much to produce is decided by the producers, not by the consumers. And as per this theory, consumer choice depends on the previous production decisions and prior social distribution decision. So, the consumer decision to buy a product depends on the that whether I want this product or not, that depends on the production decisions, right? How it has been produced doesn't matter to the consumer, right? There is no say of the consumer in the production process, right? The second aspect is social construction of material desires. Material desire is a social construct, right? So society creates desires in us, right? Gold and other observes that human needs and desires are largely determined by pre-existing conditions of the society, by the pre-existing conditions of the production. Whether we need something, if we desire it depends on the pre-existing conditions of the production. If some product exists in the environment in this society, then it determines, then it impacts my desires and the needs, right? Actually constructed by the material producers. So actually, desires are social construct, and especially the material desires are constructed by the material producers, right? So the producer decides what to produce, and then they advertise their product, and through advertisements they create the desires, material desires for their product in the consumers, right? So advertisement plays an important role. So material desires, these material desires are largely constructed by the material consumers, right? So it is the material consumers and the advertisement agencies which are responsible for creations of these material desires, and it is the producer who decides what to produce, how to produce, and how much to produce, and consumer plays actually no role in production decision, right? The transformation of material desire into human need is a social process involving production decisions. The counter of the market is shaped by the industry rather than by the consumer preferences. These this desire is changed into the needs, right? Human needs. This the transformation of desires into needs is actually a process, right? And it is this process is shaped by the industry, with production industry with the help of advertisement industry. The transformation of desire into needs is industrial process, and the production industry plays an important role with the advertisement industry, right? And then they sell their product, their produced product, right? And they create these producer creates the need of the product, right? And consumer just consume that product without thinking that how this has been produced. What is the role of the consumers, citizens, and the workers? Consumers do not determine the means of production, nor the alternate that could be produced. According to the theorist, the trade mill elites with production capital determine the form of production. The trade mill elites means the owner. The only owners determine, the manager determines what to produce, right? How to produce, right? Consumer plays a no role. They have access to the natural resources and waste sink, and they sink their waste into the environment. They have access to the liabilities, marketability, profitability of the product. The owner owns everything, right? And this consumer plays a no role, while citizen, that is consumer plus politics, plays an important role, right? They can force the producer, the consumer can choose whether he want to consume that products on the basis of the production, but he cannot suggest or he cannot say that one should not consume that product or how to produce that product. But citizen, that is politics, that is the politicians plus consumer plus the worker, they can decide what to produce, or they can force the producer to change their production system, right? And then the workers play no role in the production system. They just follow the instructions given to them by the owners, right? So only the citizen plays a certain role in production system, right? The trade mill of production in the era of globalization. What is the role of this trade mill in the era of globalization? That is, Schenberg, in his work, The Environment from Surplus to Scarcity, which is published in 1980, have partially analyzed the implication of globalization on US economy and ecology. Right? How globalization has impacted the economy and the ecology of US. Schenberg tried to discuss this. He discussed, he talked about how the rise of the investment in less developed economies would lead to reduced consumption in US and reduced production in US based industries for domestic market. Ultimately, this would lessen the impact on the environment and help the ecosystem to recover. In 1970s, right, the accountability in US, the accountability has been set to the industries about the ecosystem. So they started investing their money in the less developed economies, where they can produce their goods, right? And the Schenberg discussed that this investment in the less developed economy would lead to the reduction in consumption of US, and if there is reduction in the consumption, this will reduce the production in the US based industry. And the US based industry, if there is less consumption, the US based industry will will produce less, and when they will produce less, it will not impact the ecology and the environment, right? It will helps to recover the environment and the ecosystem. But this study by the Gold and other have shown that US based investor and manager are attracted by the overseas investments at it is it means the lower wages, lower environmental protection for the production units, right? Why? But then they try to the Gold and others find out that the investor invested their money in other economies and the overseas. Why they invested their money in overseas? Because of the lower wages in these countries, and because of the lower environmental and protection, right? The environmental laws are not very strict in these countries, and they can extract the natural resources from there, and they will invest their money, they can produce their goods at lesser cost, and then they will import this to the US and can sell their product at the higher cost, and then they can earn more profit, right? At the same time, the US based investor and manager can claim more concession from the workers and the state in order to remain competitive from overseas producers and the organization. And on one side, they can earn more profit from the lower economies, and then they can negotiate with their state, with their government, so that they can earn more profit, right? And second thing is that the environmental the this impact on the environment would have shifted abroad, and the ecological damage or because of mining, because of agriculture, or the economical degradation, that because of this manufacturing impacts their business less, because they have invested somewhere where there is no much strict laws about the environment, right? Okay. Global dimensions of environment problems. What are the global dimensions? The global dimensions of environmental problem was discussed in the Earth Summit in 1992. Soon after the conference, Schenberg and Gold came out with the work, environment, and the society. They contextualizes the treadmill model and its effect on the global history and the transitional economy. Right? They conceptualize the treadmill model, how it impacts the global history and the transitional economy. Right? And they study that there is an inequality between the global north and the south, right? They see that the global south is more that these industrialists seeing the global south as a destination for the cheap labor and raw material and waste sink. So they start their production unit at the global south because of the cheap labor, because of the more raw material, because they can sink, they can dump their waste in south, right? Their there was a damage of the political, there is less political will to protect the environment, and because of the less political will of to protect the environment, right, this impacts the ecology and environment more, right. Criticism of trade meal production. Eric Olin Wright, a Marxist scholar, gave a critical comments on Goldfellow and Schoenberg's work on the trade mill. So, Olin Wright criticized the trade mill production, this theory. He is critical to the use of the term trade mill instead of capitalism and the producer. He was not in favor to use the metaphor trade mill instead of capitalism or the producer, right? Instead of honor or the capitalist investor in the work of gold. So he was against the use of the metaphor trade mill. Second is, just because production is logically prior to the consumption doesn't mean that it is more important than the consumption. As per this theory, trade mill theory, that production is important than the consumption because it is the producer who decides the mode of production. So they said because production is more important, that production is logically prior to consumption doesn't mean that consumption is not important, even consumption is important. That's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.